Hello friends, I'm back and I am going to show you how to paint your relief sculpture. So I've started by mixing my burnt sienna and some white to make a very neutral, warm neutral light brown that I'm going to lay onto my sculpture. I'm doing the background first so that I will be able to, you know, fix any mistakes, not mistakes, happy accidents. Well, in this case, probably mistakes, things that I don't want. If I get paint on my figure, I find it just easier to go that way. If my paint is too thick, I can thin it out. The clay is going to be extremely thirsty, so it's going to soak up a lot of my color. And if you notice, I'm just putting the straight color on. I'm not worried about value because I've got real form. I've got real texture. So the actual like bumps and grooves and things that stick out will give that the darks and the light to my piece. So I'm just kind of going in between, painting my floor, getting around that foot. And I have decided that I want this to be kind of look a little bit like it's stained on it instead of like paint. So it's actually going to be pretty thin, my paint is, and it's really going to be about the texture and the form. Okay, so there's my floor. My plan was to take these are my shelves of soup cans, so I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt umber. I'm going to add it to this mixture that I already have, and that'll give me a slightly darker brown to lay down here. This brush is a little big. Truthfully, my painting professor always said that every single painting you should use at least 3 brushes. My favorite painting professor, I should say. So, oh, I won't tell you which one that is, just in case that person happens to watch my video, which I very doubt, but in case they're out there, hi! Hello, painting department of the University of Illinois in 1990 through 1994. I'm using my skills. Okay, anyway, so just kind of laying that down. And it's going to be I've got it too light on this side, I think, so I'm going to bring some of that back in. It is, you might notice that it is hard to paint around the lumps and the bumps. So find yourself going over things 3 or 4 times using a variety of brushes. All right, let's see if I can pause for a second, get this part done, and then come back and show you some more interesting things to do. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is paint the wall and the sign that says soup. And I decided to do that in a gray, so I'm going to take a lot of my white and a little bit of my black, and I do have my brown left over from this brush, but that's okay because then it makes it a nice warm gray. It's got a little bit of those red tones that you get in a warm brown. I think I need all the white actually, and maybe even a little water. I'm going to lay this on around the word soup. Wow. Yeah, I think I need to go back to my bigger brush for this because this is just a bigger area. All right, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time painting this. And if I was a better like video editor, I would be able to like suddenly now go in like fast motion, but I'm not. So instead, I'm just going to pause, and I will come back and you will see it done. Okay, so I've got a little bit farther, and I was just thinking to let you know that if you want to have colors that are really super vibrant, you might want to take some white latex house paint. I would suggest like ceiling paint, literally the stuff people paint ceilings with, because it's super flat and matte. And you can put just a coat of that, thin coat of that paint down before you paint on your sculpture. And that way it will suck up all that paint, that white paint first, and then you can paint on top of it. That's just kind of a good tip anytime you're painting colors and you want them to be really vibrant. It's best to have something that is flat and white. This is pretty white, but the clay is a little bit off white, and again, it just sucks up all the paint. And if you ever decide to paint with acrylics or even oils, they will say that you need to use something called gesso on your canvases before you paint. But here's a little pro tip from all the starving art students out there. Yeah, latex house paint works just fine. And it doesn't, and if you want to have an interesting color to build from, it doesn't have to be white. You could start with some other color. All right, I don't know if you can really see the soup word there, but we'll try. We'll come back with the color. Okay, so that's pretty good, I think. I'd say that's fairly decent. And then, so I've got my neutrals, most of my neutrals in there. I think the next thing I'm going to do is, gosh, even more white. I'm using so much white. Look at this. I'm using all the white because I want to make these cans of soup, gray, like they're silver soup cans sitting there on the shelf. So I'm going to take my white again. White, a little gray, a whole lot of gray. Should have used a lot less black, huh? A little black will go a long way. That's why you always start with the lightest color if you're blending paints, and then blend just a tiny bit of the darker color into it. Because as you can see, I've just made a whole lot of gray because I put way too much black into my white. But here's let's see, I've got the bottom of this soup can here. Yeah, let's see if I can. And if you're going to layer paints, try to put your darker or your lighter, no, your darker goes over your lighter, because it's just really hard to cover up. Really hard to cover up the darker color with a lighter. So this is going to be more idea of soup can than actual soup can here, I think. I'm just going to get the suggestion of soup. Oh, that would actually be a good title for this particular piece, because art should have titles. So think about what you might title your sculpture. I know the ancients did not title their sculptures because their sculptures had purpose. I guess ours have a certain amount of purpose, but the biggest purpose for our sculptures are to be, art. So you can give it a title that is interesting and adds to its artness. I just made that word up. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Okay, so we've got sensation of soup. A little idea of soup. Okay, and finally, I waited to the end for the background for this one, because I'm now going to put in the red. And this is going to be like no going back. Once the red goes down, it is down. So let's see, I decided on here, I'm going to check it, that I want the cooler red in the background and on the cans. And then the warmer red is going to go like spilling out of my soup can. Maybe I should color the top of that soup can gray. I think I will do that before I do my reds. I will take the top of the soup can and I will make it gray-ish. And then I will leave a little bit so the red of the soup is spilling out like it is a defeated enemy, or perhaps a animal that has been, hunted, like the Ashurbanipal hunting lions. Got a little art history in there for you. Okay, so let's get to that red, and let's start with, I'm going to take this cooler red, and I'm actually going to add some of our gray to it. Or maybe I'm going to add some red to our gray. And kind of make it much more subtle. It's not that subtle, but here we go. And we get the idea that they're red soup cans. Why did I use red soup cans? Because of a certain brand of soup that was also became famous in a particular artwork. And if you know what I'm talking about, you can put that in the chat. No, in the comments below. Oh my gosh, I'm sounding like a YouTuber. What? No. Actually, you can just respond when you get back to class, my students, with which artist became famous for creating a version of the classic red labeled soup can. Using that in art. Yeah, okay. Sorry this has taken so long. Maybe I should pause, although I've, come this far, might as well finish it up. You might find that your paint just isn't as bright and as vibrant as you want it, even if you do put a base layer down, and that means you probably need to do a second pass with your colors. As I said, I'm going for a stained look and sort of something that's not precise, something that looks more I was going to say artistic, but art can be so many different things, but something that maybe looks a little bit more impressionistic. So, again, getting the sensation of soup, the thought of soup, the idea of soup. All right, let's put this big label in. I'm going to get a lot of paint here, and since this is our most recent defeated enemy, I'm going to make this nice and dark. Make sure I do not get it on the feet of my figure. So I really don't want to have to deal with going over and over with the color of skin, which I will be showing you different ways how to blend the color of skin in the next video, because we're going to do the figure in the last painting video. All right, and then the word soup. And actually, I think I'm going to bring some of this orange red in, as well as that red, and then a tiny bit of black to make a completely different red, because why not? Yeah, I like that. And then we can make the word soup again. And you can all see why my design professor in college told me I was too messy and that I should be a painter. Fortunately, you can be as messy as you want as a painter. So there you go. there's a lot of texture happening in here, so I gotta make sure I kind of like it. I'm going with this like victory, or you know, the hunted creature. This does kind of look a little bit like blood, which yeah is gross, especially if we're talking soup, but at the same time completely fits the idea of the ancient sculpture. I mean, how many ancient relief sculptures did we see? Okay, well, we didn't see that many, but of the ones that we did see, we saw like one that was all about like the victory over Jerusalem when the Romans conquered Jerusalem. And yeah, they didn't have their like dead enemies there, but you know, the idea is there. Maybe if they thought that they could like, you know, really make it nice, they would have included their dead enemies. Okay, that you can't see that part of the O because the arm is there. This part of the O is here. That part of the O is there. I think I might have to go back and fix a few things. And this video is getting so long. But there we go. There's the O in soup. And finally, we're going to have the S in soup. And wow, this part is the tricky part, because the steam, which you didn't see in the last video because I decided to add afterwards, is actually some serious high relief that it is, part of it is off of the, I'm gonna bring this, I know officially it wasn't over here, but I just want everybody to know that, hey, this is an S for soup. So we can totally see that S for soup. Somebody count how many times I said the word soup in this video. Drop that in the comments. All right, okay. All right, lovely students. I've got my background painted, and I'm gonna work on my figure, including the bowl. Oh wait, I forgot the soup spilling out. Can't forget the spilling of the soup. So the idea was it's like around the edge and down onto the floor. The soup is everywhere. I don't know if that you're really getting a sense of spilled tomato soup. I guess this is tomato. But yeah, that's what that's supposed to be. It is a path of spilled tomato soup. The spilled tomato soup of victory. Okay, so I'm going to pause here, and next video we will be painting the figure.